Welcome to another lesson on how to integrate Transcrypt with reactive documents on the web. Now, if you are using or even thinking about using Transcrypt, you must be a Python user. So I won't spend too much time on getting the environments up and running, but I'll just show you how I like to do things. So I like to do things using conda. So for example, if I want to create a new environment, I can run a conda create. So I'll do a conda create with an environment name called my demo, and I'm going to use Python 3, and then it will just build an environment for you essentially. So we'll cut forward with the video. And with that, the environment has been built for you. So the next step here is installing the packages. So packages that we need for this particular project is simply NumPy and NumScript. Now we're not going to go into too much detail with NumScript, but NumScript will also install Transcrypt for you. So really, the basic requirement for this particular series will be Transcrypt, but I'm going to install NumScript because it will be something which would be of interest for many people in data science. NumScript. So once you do that and you install everything, then the environment will be good and ready to go. But I'm not going to be using this environment because I already built my own one. So to start off with, what do we need to do for Transcrypt? The answer is not very much at all. So I'm going to also use a Go script which I've written, which does an auto build. Why Go? Simply because it was just something that I wanted to use at the time. So I'm going to just copy and paste this code, which I'll make available. And I'm going to change the target of what it's looking for. So I'm going to make it look at hello.py. So with this Go script, it does a number of things, and I've also installed a rollup bundler, which is optional, by the way. And I'll include some instructions for how to handle that. But the Go script, if the target file changes, which is hello.py, then it will run make build. So I also need to create my Makefile. And the Makefile will have these commands, which I have. So I'm going to change this to Python table because that's what I called it before. And it will just build and bundle up the code that I need. Okay, so let's change this. So how does it work? Well, to show you how this works, if I run a function that says define hello, and then it just prints hello world, I should be able just to run make build, and it will run Transcrypt and also create a new bundled up JavaScript thing for me. So to demonstrate that this works, I'm just going to copy and paste all of this code, go back to my code pen, and paste it here. Right. And you can see that it defines a couple of things here, but it does define a function called hello, which prints hello world. So to use this, I've called it as part of my bundler Python table.hello. And if I run this and I open up the console, I should see hello world. There we go. So that's how we know that it works. Now let's have a closer look at each of the individual components of what I've run. So in my build, what happens? The first step is, and I'm going to run them one at a time. First step is you run Transcrypt on the particular code that you're after. So if I run that and I just run that, it will do a whole bunch of things, and then it will generate all of this Python code here minus the bundler. So just to show you what actually gets generated, let's remove the target folder, right? So now that's gone. So if I run this, then you will see that it will generate a whole bunch of JavaScript files, which you can then integrate into your project, and you can then start to call each individual module like what I did just then. The next thing that I've done is I've used rollup, which can be installed via npm. If you use rollup, you just use rollup on the target package, which is python_table, and it will just bundle everything in a single JavaScript file, which we can then hand over to something like CodePen. So those are the series of steps that we use. The important thing with the rollup bundler is you probably need to call it the name of the module that you need. So then in the JavaScript code, whenever you use it, you'll refer it as this name here, dot whatever function you want to use. So that's a little bit about what's going on here and how to use Transcrypt. And just have a play around with it, have a go at all the different kind of things. It is very, very powerful, and you can use almost anything from the standard library. So it is a very useful tool in terms of just using your native Python code as part of your browser. So I'll show you how my workflow looks like for what this looks like. So I will run my auto build, and then if I want to introduce something new, so for example, one of the key important things that we want to do is we want to generate things or Python tables that can then be displayed. And we'll go into a little bit more of that next time. But for example, if I just want to generate some data, so generate data, maybe what this data looks like is 1, 2, so A, B, C, D. So if that's what our data structure looks like, you can see when I save, it will just automatically run it. Then we can pass that to the data table function within the JavaScript world, and it will display that table. Okay, so I just want to show you that this works, and it's taking a little while. Okay, and what I want to do now is I want data table to be this to be called generate data, and hopefully when I save or when it reruns, there we go, A, B, C, D. Now we can use this to generate more and more data. So for example, if you give it some kind of argument, then maybe this gets repeated however many times that you want. So if I call this data is equal to that, and I'm going to call this num repeat equals 3, or maybe I'll just, yep. So then it will just be data equals, this is probably a very bad example, AB, and we're going to say for in range num repeat, and we're going to return data. So if we do this, then we can put in an argument and it will display a table however big it needs to be. Okay, so I think my bundle is done, or maybe not. Yep, so now it should be done. Sorry, it's double checking. And now if I reload this and say I want a table with 10 rows, then hopefully when it reloads, I'll get a table with 10 rows. So there you go, you can see that this is working as we intended. So I hope to see you next time.